So welcome. It's a great turnout. Thank you for all for being here. First of all, I'm Mark Gom. For those of you that don't know me, department coordinator here. I direct the band, wind ensemble. Over here we have Rachel Allen, who directs our choir. Bonnie Hughes. Bonnie's going to wave. She is our intrepid nurse who is coming on the trip. Lisa Lynes. Lisa is our tour manager. She put together this itinerary for us. I think by now you all know we've got wonderful tickets to see Les Mis at the Kennedy Center, as well as the National Symphony playing one of the great pieces of orchestral literature of the 20th century, Stravinsky's Firebird, which is a really special event. We have a tour of the Capitol building, which we arranged through Senator Blumenthal's office. I'm grateful to them for their help with that. We're going to the Arlington National Cemetery, which, if you've never been to that, is an incredibly powerful experience. We'll get to watch the changing of the guard. So we have time tickets to the Museum of African American History and Culture, as well as the Air and Space Museum, which I believe was recently renovated. Yes, so we have a dinner cruise on the Potomac, in addition to a lot of other things, honestly. So I've just put on the map here where our hotel is. We're staying at the Doubletree by Hilton McLean Tysons. It's about a 30-minute drive into the city. Typically the way it works is we get up early in the morning, we leave the hotel, and we don't come back to the hotel until the end of the day. And this is kind of part of the reason for that. A 30-minute drive from Tysons to Washington in the morning might turn into an hour, hour and 15, hour and 20-minute drive midday, and the last thing we want to do is spend all that precious time in traffic. What to pack? There is an extensive list in the packet which was emailed home. It would be great if there could be one bag that is meant to go onto the bus and one bag that they can carry with them on the bus. I've kind of separated the packing list in the packet to what you should put in each. One thing that I didn't put on the list, and you should definitely make a note of this because I just found out about it. In order to go on the Capitol tours, anyone that is 18 or older will need a government-issued photo ID, and anyone that is younger than 18 will need a photo ID. That could be your school ID. It doesn't have to be a passport or anything that official. But something that is a photo ID in order to get into that Capitol tour. So if you would definitely make a note of that, and I'll try to send a reminder about that home. The bag that you carry on the bus, it would be great if that would be the kind of bag that you could conveniently use sort of day to day on the trip, because again, as I mentioned, we'll be getting on the bus in the morning, spending the day outside of the hotel, and you'll need something to carry stuff around in. So a bag that, a backpack ideally, or something that's not super bulky, but that will hold a number of items would be a good call. There's mention on the list of semi-formal clothing for 2 performances at the Kennedy Center and dinner cruise. I want to kind of be more specific about that and qualify it a little bit. We have 2 evening performances at the Kennedy Center, which would typically be the kind of place you'd want to elevate your clothing for. Both of those nights, both of those concerts happen after a full day of sightseeing, and where we don't go back to the hotel prior. So for those events, it's not going to be appropriate to have like the full dress and the fancy shoes or what have you. However, if you could think strategically about an outfit that you could wear comfortably around town, and then with the quick addition perhaps of a nice sweater or nicer shoes or a quick change of a shirt, that you could look presentable for a nice night at the Kennedy Center. The dinner cruise night, we will have a chance to go back to the hotel and change before that. Now, I don't know, maybe Lisa, you could speak to the dinner cruise, what typically students wear for that.
It's completely up to you. You can go dressy, and we have kids that go in jeans and t-shirts.
So that's not going to be something like Guilford High School is not going to be requiring that people get dressed up and fancy for that. But know that you can, and that it would be an appropriate occasion to do so if you wish, but that there'll be a variety of choices made that evening. You will also all, including the adults, be getting a t-shirt that will say Washington, D.C., and it'll have our GHS logo on it. That's both a souvenir, which you can wear throughout the trip if you wish, but specifically we're going to wear it on the day that we have our workshop, so that we have some degree of uniformity. What not to bring. Don't bring any valuables. Don't bring excessive spending money. Computer and gaming systems, I'm going to talk about that in a second, and anything you would be heartbroken to lose. The computer gaming systems is a matter of great passion for some of our students, and I've had people practically write 10-page essays to me hoping that they could have a gaming system on this trip. There are several reasons why this is an absolute no. Number one, when you start pulling plugs out of the TVs and hooking up various things to a hotel television set, anything that gets damaged or mistakenly taken or what have you becomes the responsibility. We'd have to pay for that. That's one reason. The other reason is for everyone's health and enjoyment. As you'll see when we talk about the morning routine and the afternoon routine, this is not a light schedule. It is packed. You're going to be up early, you're going to be out early, and you're going to be home late, and everything in between, you're going to be busy. When you get home at night, you're going to be tired. Now, I have no doubt, having been around high school students for as long as I have been, that at around 10:30, all of the high school students will get a second wind. And they will feel totally comfortable staying up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. That would be a mistake. When you're tired or when you get sick because you were up beyond when you needed to the night before, that doesn't just impact you and your happiness. That impacts everyone's happiness and everyone's wellness. So I can't say this clearly enough. The gaming systems are enough. On Monday, the day that we leave, the bus is arriving at 8. But we're asking everyone to be here at 7 because our administrators who are coming in during April break at 7 in the morning are all going to be going through your instrument cases, we'll be going through your luggage, we'll be going through your carry-on. This is something we do every single time we go on a trip. Knowing the clientele that we have on this trip, I'm not worried about that in the least. Having said that, we have to know that everyone is above board going on this trip, and so it's going to be a fun trip. We don't need to bring other items that may arrive at 7 o'clock. You don't need to get here at 6:30. You don't need to get here at 6:15. 7 o'clock will be fine, and then that'll give us time to go through all the luggage, pack what we need to, get it under the bus at 8, and on the road hopefully by 9, if not sooner. Meals. The way this particular trip works, every single breakfast is included, minus, of course, the breakfast on the day that we leave. You should eat breakfast at your home before you arrive on Monday. But all of the other breakfasts are included. Every dinner is included. All of the lunches are on your own. So please bring enough money for 5 lunches. 2 of those lunches will be at rest stops. En route, we'll try to pick places that have multiple options for people, but keep that in mind. Some of you, for the first day anyway, may consider packing a lunch for your first day. And like I said, there'll be 3 meals in Washington, D.C. Obviously, food is more expensive in Washington, D.C. I would say plan between $10 and $20 for a lunch. I think many, if not most, if not all of the places that we'll be at will be kind of food court type places that would take a credit card. But I think it would be smart to have some cash too. We're not going to let anyone go hungry. We would get them food and we'd work out the details after. But good to have a certain amount of cash with you, for sure. Please make us aware of any dietary needs, allergies, and so forth. The place to do that, and we'll talk about the forms in a second, but the place to do that would be on the medical permission form, which is one of the forms that came in today. The vast majority of places that we're going to are family-style meals where students will have lots of options. For example, the Ronald Reagan Food Court, they'll be given a voucher. They can choose from any one of a dozen restaurants. Breakfast, if you've ever been to a Hilton and seen the breakfast buffet, that's what it is. So they're pretty much, some of the lunches are in the Smithsonian museums. Those kind of places have options for everyone. So if you find, if your students find that they're at a place where they don't have good options for whatever their dietary needs are, please tell a chaperone, tell me, tell one of the other directors, tell our nurse, so that we can help you find the food that you need. Not eating lunch, not eating breakfast, not eating dinner is not an option. You need all 3 meals. A good idea to bring, certainly to bring a water bottle and snacks for rides. We'll have some quality time on the bus. So everyone that's traveling on the trip should sign up for this Remind group. Anyone that's staying at home should sign up for this Remind group. Now, if you're staying at home and you want to sign up for this one, can you? Sure. But you're going to get a text from me at 6:30 in the morning saying, why aren't you at the bus? So I don't recommend this. I recommend this for those of you that are staying at home. So the number, regardless of which you are, the number you are texting is 81010. This group here, this is how we keep people on track. And if people are late for the bus, we'll send a message this way. If we need to change plans midstream, if say people are out on free time and the bus has to meet us 15 minutes earlier, an alert will go out on this, and that should take care of everyone. This, by the way, also gives students the ability to send a text to me. So if there's something they need to, a question they need to ask, they can respond to a text, and I will see it. Okay. I've also put in the packet all of our personal cell phone numbers. Mine, Ms. Allen's, Mr. Jones. Students should absolutely program those numbers, at least one of those numbers, into their phones. We trust that those will be used appropriately, but certainly if it were an emergency and this isn't working, a call on the phone would absolutely be merited. This one over here, the @DC News 23, that's for like when we're all sitting in front of the Washington Monument and I'll say, hey, everyone smile, click, and I'll send that here, and then you'll all get a picture of the group. That's just so that you can kind of follow along, okay? We will also, we'll also be sending emails out, I think at the end of the night. One of us will curl up with our computer, do a quick summary of the day, try to throw a few pictures in. So we'll send it out to the email list that I've been sending information out to, as well as folks that were sponsors for some of the students. There are students in here whose relatives and friends sponsored them on the trip, gave a donation and so forth, and we'll be sending them the same communication. The morning routine. Most days, the wake-up time is 6 or 6:30 a.m. You're welcome to get up earlier than that. Some rooms may have a routine where they need X amount of minutes and a shower, and there's 4 people, and so it may not be enough time for them to get up and get showered and down for breakfast. But that's kind of the basics. Students should set their own alarms, but chaperones will also be going around to the rooms in the morning, knocking on the doors, making sure someone comes to the door and says hello. And then after the chaperone has knocked on the door and said hello and sees that everyone's there, then it's up to the students to get themselves ready and down to breakfast. Everyone has to attend breakfast. If you prefer sleep over food, you still have to go to breakfast. Again, that's just years of experience with this. If you don't get a good breakfast, you're not making it through the day. So please come down to breakfast. We will check. The breakfast is also a great time to check in with your chaperones if you need to, and particularly to check in with the nurse. So if you have perhaps medication you need to take in the morning, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we may ask you to check in with Ms. Hughes, just so that you know what's going on. If any of you are experiencing symptoms, a lot of us will be down in the breakfast room, but you should check in with someone at that point. Let us know you're not feeling well. Let us know you've got a headache. And then we depending on the day, we'll leave between 7:30 and 8:30. And in most days, we're not back until 9:30 or 10 p.m. So that's a full day. This is the evening routine. When we get back, again, typically 9:30 or 10 p.m., there's going to be potentially a brief window of time before room check. When room check happens, the chaperones will go around to each of the rooms. They will walk into each of the rooms. They will make eye contact with all of the students in the room, make sure everyone is there. The chaperones will go through the plan for the next day. We'll talk about what they need to pack in their day pack for the day, what time they need to be there for breakfast, make sure everyone is clear about when wake up is, so on and so forth. And then they will shut the door and put tape on the outside of the doors. The tape doesn't actually keep the door shut. It's in the event of a fire, it's not going to keep someone in the room. It is there because if a student opens up the door to go wherever in the middle of the night, they can't get back into the room and simultaneously put the tape back on the door. So people will know if they've been out of the room. I should also mention that after 11 o'clock, there'll be security guards on duty in our hallways that will report to us any noise happening in any of the rooms. They'll also report to us, anyone that tried to leave the room for whatever reason. Should there be an actual emergency, then yes, you leave the room, you find the security guard, or you text me, you call the nurse, you do whatever you need to do. But those sorts of things are for actual real emergencies, not, oh, my water bottle, can I get some ice? I'm parched. Yes, once the rooms are taped in, you got that, and then typically lights out is a half an hour after you're taped in your rooms. And if there's lots of noise happening outside of the rooms, beyond that point, the security guards or one of the other chaperones will knock on the doors and we'll ask everyone to quiet down and go to bed. Most of the time that students have free is scheduled for the middle of the day, in part because that's kind of the time of day they'll be looking for lunch. We'll always have them in a place where they can easily access lunch. They won't have to run all around the city trying to find some place to eat. It'll be easy to access. They'll always be given a specific time and a specific place to meet. Students do not need to travel with an adult. They can walk around with just people their age. You have to be in a group of 3. Period, end of story. If any of the chaperones or any of the adults on the trip spot a group of Guilford High School students walking around in a group of 2, they'll be instructed to call those students over, and those students for the remainder of the trip and for the remainder of the day and potentially the remainder of the trip will not be allowed to have free time without an adult. You have to be in a group of 3. This is a tough way of thinking about it, but one person to get sick, one person to stay with that person, and one person to go get help. That's kind of the gist. It's also, for example, if I send a text saying, we're meeting the bus in 15 minutes, get over here, with 3 people, at least 3 people, 3 times chances that someone's going to get the text. And to the students in here, I encourage you to travel in groups that are larger than that. I encourage you to be open to bringing friends into your group that might not normally hang out with you and your close-knit group of friends. There's multiple reasons for that, why that would be a good idea, but one of them is safety. The larger the numbers, the safer you are. If you're the parent of a 9th grader that maybe hasn't done this kind of travel before and you're a little bit nervous about unleashing your 9th grader out into the world of DC without an adult present, I promise you, it's okay. In fact, Mr. Morris here went on a trip with us to Italy a number of years back before students had cell phones, and we released them in downtown Rome for hours. No cell phones.
Although one kid fell into the canal.
Well, we did have a kid fall into one of the canals in Venice. And funny story, he then charged, he was covered in, we were out in Venice for the day, he was covered in muck, he went into, I don't know, whatever designer store was closest, bought himself a whole new outfit on his father's credit card. And then we got a phone call from the father saying, "Is my son okay? I just had this huge charge at, I don't know what the store was." But the other thing that we do is before we disperse students, and this isn't a perfect system, but we have them just talk to their chaperones, say, "Hi, I'm going out. I'll be with Ellie and I'll be with Carter. Don't go visiting anyone else's room that is not from Guilford High School. Please do not order a room service. No DoorDash. No Uber Eats." Group travel. I've been traveling in large groups like this since I was in high school, and it is an amazingly fun way to travel. But it's a different style of travel if you've only traveled in small groups with your family. I can't stress how important it is to be on time. If the bus leaves at 10, you should be there 5 minutes early. Because we can only move as fast as the slowest person. I have a mathematical formula that I follow on the trip, which is if you're late by X number of minutes, we multiply that number of minutes by the number of people on the trip, and that's how many minutes you owe me. So if you're late by 3 minutes, well, there's 98 people on the trip. So you're going to owe me roughly just shy of 300 minutes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. Sorry, math not my strong suit right now. It's been a long week. But that means that you will lose 5 hours of free time because you were 2 minutes late. We ask you to be back at the bus at 10. You're in line to buy the t-shirt you've always wanted, and you know you can't get back to the bus on time. You leave the t-shirt where it is and you come back to the bus. We don't want to be waiting for people. You will see, because at some point it'll be very frustrating. Someone will be late and we're all like, "Come on, we gotta go. So please do not be late. Maintain a positive attitude. Some things are gonna go wrong in this trip. Most of it's gonna go amazing. Okay, we can have all sorts of things happen. People could lose a phone, lose a wallet. We just got to roll with it. Group travel is about rolling with it. And if you're okay with it, if you're okay rolling with it and keeping a positive attitude, then you're going to be fine. Your attitude affects everyone around you. So please stay positive. There is a certain amount of hurrying up and waiting. We get to a restaurant and we have to wait to be seated. We get to the Capitol, we have to get there early because our appointment's at a certain time and we can't miss it or else we don't go on the tour. So we get there early, we've got to wait. These are great opportunities to meet friends. These are great opportunities to play a game of cards. They're great opportunities to look around and ask questions and make the most of this trip. So just be prepared for perhaps a little bit more waiting than you might be used to if you travel on your own. We all need to work together to stay healthy because, as I mentioned before, if you're tired, if you're exhausted because you stayed up too late and you get sick, it does impact everyone. So wash your hands, observe the lights out, stay hydrated, and with any symptoms whatsoever, please see our nurse or see one of the chaperones so that we can care for you. Tour guides. We're going to be very fortunate to have any number of local tour guides, whether it's at Arlington National Cemetery or at the Capitol Building. Be on your absolute best, most respectful behavior and engage them during the tour. Those are not times to be on your phone. Not that you can't take a picture with your phone or anything like that, but get up close, listen to what the tour guide is saying, ask the questions. You're not going to get an opportunity like this if you go to Washington, D.C. on your own. We have the best tour guides. Lisa has arranged for some awesome opportunities for us. So be present, be in that moment, and pay close attention. Get up close to the guides and hear what they're saying. With all of the adults, whether it's our bus drivers or our tour guides or the folks at the hotel or whoever, everyone that we encounter, please be polite. Please go out of your way to say thank you. Please go out of your way to get us the reputation as being the best group that has ever gone to Washington, D.C. Because there have been some difficult groups that have gone to Washington, D.C., and all of the folks that are dealing with you all have experienced that. We want to be the opposite. We want to represent our school well, represent our music department well, and it'll just make it better for everyone. You'll enjoy it more, they'll enjoy it more. So please be super polite. Health and medication. I already introduced Bonnie, BBHUES at snet.net. You could also, if you prefer to reach out to our school nurse and talk to Sarah Kellogg. Sarah is going to be meeting with myself and also with Bonnie at some point this week just to kind of go over our roster and make sure everyone is up to date on everyone's medical information. You've got 3 medical forms, 2 of which are required, 1 of which only some of you will need to fill out. One is a medical permission form. This is just an opportunity for you to put down any medical concerns you have, ranging from dietary needs, is susceptible to motion sickness, that would be good to know. We are spending a lot of time on the bus. Allergies, and then sort of the emergency contact information. So that's the medical permission form. On the back side of that is the over-the-counter medication authorization. This is so that we can administer Tylenol or Advil, ibuprofen, or Dramamine to students without having to call you. So if you're okay with all of those, then you would just sign this and date it and turn it in. If there are any of these medications that you don't want us to administer to your child, cross them out, sign it, and turn it in. If you don't want us to administer any of these, then a big X over the whole thing, sign it, and turn it in. We'll maintain a list of that before we give any medication to anyone. Important to note, and this is for the chaperones in the room, really the only person that should be administering medication to a student on this trip is Bonnie. Even if you have grown up with one of the other students in the room, they're friends with your child, and they come over your house every day, and you know their mom would be okay if you gave them just a little bit of Tylenol, please direct them to the nurse anyway. We will have supplies of these medications. We prefer that the students don't bring them. Here's why. I mean, there's obvious reasons why we don't want them to bring it, but perhaps the less obvious reason is that if someone's taking an Advil because they have a headache, we'd like to know they have a headache. Because we'd like to care for them. We'd like to track the students that aren't feeling well. We'd like to know. So the fact that they don't have the Advil with them actually works in their benefit, because then they're going to go to the nurse, or they'll go to me, or whoever, get the medication that they need, and then we'll have them on our radar screen, and we'll be able to look out for them. For things that are prescription, or for things like an EpiPen, or what have you, anything that isn't Tylenol, Advil, or Dramamine, we need to fill out one of these forms, which is the more complicated one, which requires a doctor's signature. So this includes over-the-counter meds that aren't the 3 I mentioned. So Claritin, for example, that kind of thing. This form has a spot on here for if you want to give your child the ability to self-administer. You just sign what it says for the stuff down here, and that's okay. Typically, the way we've done it is if the medication in question is a morning and an evening only situation, that's a medication that's best kept on the student, assuming that parents feel they are reliable and that they will religiously take the medication at night and in the morning. If it's a medication that's taken 3 times a day, it's typically best if we hold the medication and the student come to us for that, particularly because we won't be at the hotel in the middle of the day. If someone were to forget to put their medication in their bag when they leave, we want to have that medication. So that's kind of one of the reasons we do that. But we will do it on a sort of case-by-case basis. So that would be something that, if you have questions about that, you could talk it over with Bonnie tonight or via email. I got a question about topical, like creams and things like that, even prescription things. I've been told that that's okay. It would be great if we could know what that is, so that if for whatever reason there was a reaction, we would be prepared.
For self-administer, is that only for things that would be considered over-the-counter meds, or could that be for prescription medications as well?
No, that is, yes, that would be this entire form, yes, prescriptions as well.
Is there anything that's excluded from that? Like,
And we'll look at it on a case-by-case basis. If there's a particular medication that we'd be particularly concerned about, a student not getting that medication, if we have any concerns whatsoever, then we probably would engage the parents in a discussion and make a plan. If you have a student with an allergy that requires an EpiPen, they should absolutely 100%, without a doubt, have the EpiPen on them at all times. It should be in their backpack where they know where to find it, and where it's, typically in the smallest pocket of the backpack. That'll be the first place we look. We will have an EpiPen as well that's unassigned to a particular student. We may have multiple of them. I haven't quite figured that out yet. But definitely students that have that kind of an allergy should carry the EpiPen with them. They'll need to fill out this form. And that includes if you already have this form on file in the schools. One of the things we'll be doing in that time before we get on the bus is we'll have a list of students that we need to check in with, make sure they have the EpiPen, make sure they have, whatever other medications, diabetes, etc. Observance of school policy. We already talked about the rule of 3. We already talked about meeting times. This last one, thankfully, in all the years that I've worked here and all the trips that we've taken, we've never had to pull the trigger on this one. But if, for whatever reason, there's a significant enough breach of school policy, we may deem it necessary to send a student home at a parent's expense, and that would be at our discretion. Certainly, the possession of drugs or alcohol would merit someone getting a phone call saying, we're sending your child home, or please come pick up your child. And given that it's Washington, D.C., that would probably be the discussion, would be please drive down to Washington, D.C. and pick up your child. And I should also mention, this is important, that also implies for everyone that's in a room. If we find alcohol or drugs in a room, then everyone in the room is essentially responsible for that, because there's no way of knowing who it belonged to, who's used it. Know your roommates and be good. When you go on trips like this, it's so important to get into the spirit. Be willing to try new things. Washington, D.C.'s cuisine is not super adventurous, but you might come across, culinary delights that you don't typically see in Guilford. Try them, okay? Whatever you see that looks interesting, enjoy that experience. Meet new friends. I know you have your favorites, but there's lots of cool people going on this trip, and it's a wonderful opportunity to get to know some of them. I already mentioned, please be welcoming others into your friend group when walking around town. It'll just make it more fun for everybody. Be engaged during all the activities. Listen attentively to our tour guides. Honor the local customs. Bring a journal. I still have journals from trips I took in high school, and it's very amusing going back. We have a workshop while we're in Washington, D.C. It's through a company called Heritage Festivals, and I forget how they're finding the clinicians, but they're going to work with each of our ensembles. We have a choral ensemble, a band ensemble, wind ensemble, if you will, and a string ensemble. These are made up of members from each of our groups. It's not like a group that we rehearse with every day. In order to have music prepared for that, some of my students anyway don't even have the music yet. We have 2 rehearsals, Those are the dates. Band and wind ensemble is this coming Monday and Thursday from 6:30 to 8. The choir and orchestra rehearsals are after school on April 4th and 6th. Again, those dates are in the packet. Yes?
Are the workshops happening at the same time, as in, like, for people like me and Carter, would we just be in one?
We've thought of that, believe it or not. So yes, the strings are happening at the same time as the choir, I believe. And then the band is separate. So if you're in two groups, I don't think there's any overlap between strings and the choral groups. It's just between band and wind. So you'll do both. You'll be able to do both. Yep.
Do kids take their backpacks into the Kennedy Center or the Capitol, or do they leave them on the bus, or how?
They could bring them in, but there's really no reason for them to. For the Kennedy Center, the buses are gonna drop them off, and then the buses will pick them up. And then for the Capitol, it'll be the same thing. So they can leave their stuff on the bus, go to the Capitol tour, and then they're getting back on the bus to then go to the next stop.
There is a gym, I believe. You're not going to have much time for it. I mean, if that's something you want to do, please come talk to us. We'll look at the schedule. We'll find a time that's appropriate.
These are extra rehearsals for next week,
Yes.
and where are they?
I think mine are going to be in the band room, and choir will be in the choral room, orchestra will be in the orchestra room. Yeah.
Are the rehearsals required
Yes.
if you have something going on?
If you've got a conflict, just handle it like you would any other conflict. Just let your teacher know as soon as you can. Try to make arrangements to go to the rehearsal, and if it's something that's immovable, just communicate.
Do I have to go to orchestra?
The orchestra is just strings for purposes of this trip. So
For the evening rehearsals, you drop off at the main entrance or down by the,
you can do it down by the rehearsals in the band room, so you can just
the doors will be?
the door you can do it down there. Nope, that's what we'll wear the t-shirts. The t-shirt you don't have the t-shirts yet. They've been ordered. I think they're coming in sometime this week. I hope so. We'll get those out before the trip.